Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Letting Go with Guy Finley. We're really glad you're here with us this morning. My name is Leah, and I will be the host for today's class. So if you're new, our format for these Sunday classes is Guy gives about a 1-hour talk. And after his talk, we take a 5-minute break, stretch your legs, grab a glass of water, or refresh your coffee. And then we come back for a live interaction with Guy where you can ask him questions yourself. And anything you're struggling with or questions you have about the talk, or just comments, even sometimes just a thank you, because we get so much out of it, is welcomed at that time. So take some notes, and we look forward to hearing from you after Guy gives his talk. If you have any questions, you can always write them in the chat area of whatever format you're on. And if you have technical issues, that's also a place to go. And Kate's behind the scenes. She's always willing to help. So I think with that being said, we can go ahead and get started. We can bring Guy in, and I will read the title and the key lesson. There he is.
Yep, there he is.
Okay. The title for today's talk: The Single Action That Cancels Any Crisis. It's impossible to imagine a better time to come without making more real a sense of self that is forever trying to escape the time within which it is trapped.
Is something happening? It's me. First, hello and welcome to everybody that's joining us here in Florida, and of course to the students on the West Coast and men and women all over the world, wherever you are. I'm glad that you're here sharing this time. Sometimes it feels as if I'm not adamant enough about what can happen to a human being who begins to see the truth that sets them free. Our problem is that we don't see the truth that sets us free. We imagine a freedom and then build truth around it so that we can finally get someplace that we've imagined in time will liberate us from whatever it is that's so painful about our lives. So today I want to be adamant and tell you that I'm going to, if you will, reveal a tremendous secret. It's my intention every time we sit down to bring insights into our heart and into our mind that have enough substance to begin to weave themselves into a certain part of us created to receive those insights and then to begin to enact what is implied through them. So the topic is this idea that there is some kind of power that can cancel a crisis before it begins. What wouldn't you pay to have a life where you didn't have to have a crisis, because prior to being carried away by it, you were in, and I want to stress this, you were in the right time. We think of being in the right place. And you can't think of a place outside of yourself that doesn't involve the time it takes to get there. And so to understand a crisis requires that you and I have, how many years? I'm coming up on my 77th birthday, and I can tell you that that's a lot of years, a lot of struggle, a lot of tears. That does what? That takes so much time to realize what's going on. Why haven't I changed? Because that's the essential question an aspirant asks, no matter what their path may be, whoever it may be that they worship. Why hasn't Christ come into my life? I can profess that he has, but clearly I'm still an irritable, conflicted human being that evidences that at the heart, at the drop of a hat. So that can't be so. I can say all day long, but proof's in the pudding. And again, it's the question. See, when we say, why haven't I changed? It places the responsibility on you for having found the right place where all those promises can be fulfilled. And so the secret that we're going to look at today is that there is no such place, in quotes, for you to reach where you will no longer say, why haven't I changed? Instead, you'll start to understand why aren't I being changed? What's in the way of me being as I, in my heart of hearts, know I'm meant to be, which is a human being that isn't hung up, clinging to, stuck on, in a constant mode to revisit what I talked about yesterday, an inside timer, always trying to save myself. And when I try to save myself, how do I save myself? Honestly, I'm asking, how do I save myself? Well, I think about there'll be a time to come when I'll be saved. There'll be a time to come when I figure this out. There'll be a time to come when what I'm identified with will replace the pain that I'm in for being identified, and I won't be that person anymore. So what we looked at yesterday, to touch on it briefly, is that we're always in one mode or another. Our mind is trying to figure out how to save ourselves from some form of stress. It's hard to see. A man or a woman who might be a good religious person is stressed because they can't live up to what Paul said, the good they would. Instead, they do the evil they wouldn't. And here I am, when I do the evil I shouldn't, I'm stressed because I believe I should be the one who can do the good that I know is good. And there is no such self by your name that can do the good that you know is good. So here I am trying to save myself. And what am I trying to save myself? What is my stress in that moment when I fail to live up to what I expect will free me? What is my stress in that moment other than comparison? I'm in conflict. This is who I should be. This is what Christ would have done. This is how Buddha would have thought about it. And here's what I'm doing, which is nothing like that. And then hating myself for not being Christ-like. Despising myself for a mind that's so easily taken over by whatever that disturbance is that I'm carried off by it. Everybody following me? Yes. So I asked, okay, so what I'm always thinking about is that, how do I deal with this stress that I'm in, whether it's in the moment or I lay in bed at night and my mind is carried off? So now this is the transition into the talk. What is it that sets off that stress? Do you know that you've never asked yourself that question? You never ask yourself why you're afraid. Something tells you the source of your fear. You never ask why you're angry. You know why you're angry because he's like this or she didn't do that. So there's never a question when we're visited repeatedly by these negative states that we serve by trying to do what? Save ourselves from the pain inherent in the reaction that caused us to feel the way we feel. Yes or no, everybody? Yes. So what I'm asking is, well, what precipitates, and I'll ask you, the urgency of that search? Is not that search urgent? Yeah. And here's why. Because in essence, when that takes place, there is the experience of a kind of crisis that we feel requires immediate solution. So that when I have a fearful reaction, the appearance of that fear wants an immediate resolution to it. Because the crisis inherent in the fear is doing what? It's saying, you got to resolve this before this whole thing really goes down all the way it looks like it's going down, because if you don't act immediately, there will be consequences to pay. So a crisis for us always involves a notion of a consequence that isn't connected immediately to the moment, because the moment itself, do you know there's no such thing as a crisis moment? There's a Christed moment. There's a moment in which this living light is never not present, but there's no such thing as the crisis that you and I are always trying to solve, because that crisis doesn't exist without something inside of ourselves that says, oh my God, look what's about to happen. And then it starts to talk to you, doesn't it? He said, well, let me tell you what's going to happen. This is going to go on like forever. You will never be free of this person or this problem. And besides which, you don't deserve to be free because of what a terrible person you were yesterday or for the last 30 years. So not only are we visited by something that's saying there's a consequence coming, but in essence, the crisis is it's fallen on me who one way or another doesn't deserve this crisis regardless of how bad I've been. And this karma must be the cause of something else someone else laid on me at some point in my life. So we're never to blame. Have you ever been to blame for a crisis? Honestly, answer honestly. Never. Even when I know I did something bad, I'm not responsible for the crisis. The devil made me do it. Yeah. So here we are. And again, now we're talking about first, ever looking for a solution to this stress. Well, what causes the stress? A crisis. I'll keep refreshing your memory so you know where we are. This crisis exists as it does because inherent in a crisis is a consequence. And the consequence in a crisis is never go, this is going to be great. Do you ever think to yourself in a crisis, this is wonderful. I hope this just goes on forever. Or is this, let me get over and through this crisis as fast as I can? And a crisis can be caused by what? Have you ever, you may not know it, I see it all the time in you. You have a crisis because of a thought. And it doesn't take much of a thought. It can be looking in the mirror. Oh my God. Where did that come from? How about, what's that pain? I've never had that pain before. God, that's a new pain. And then the crisis is what? Consequence. And where does consequence come from? Something that's telling you, when you go see the doctor, which you don't want to do, you don't want to pay it, but in 4 years, when you finally get there, he's going to tell you, you should have come right away. Then I can hate myself for being a coward. So all of this just rolls on and on. Does it not? Like a long chain crisis. So I'm going to explain to you what the nature of this chain crisis is, because once you understand it, guess what's going to happen? You'll have the power to bring a crisis to the end before it begins, once you understand what we're talking about. So, crisis. People want to go viral. Well, you're already viral. Does not a single thought go viral? It's like you have your own website. It is. Here's this thought. Did he really say that? And then something picks it up and it posts it in another website, another mind site. Yeah. And then that mind site, it posts it, but it elaborates. Then you get commentary on that website and you react to every one of the commentaries that you think appeared on someone else's website, but it's your website, your commentary, and it's all your crisis. Can you see this in real time? Someone betrays you. You get some news. Listen, I have some bad news for you. They don't have to say what the bad news is. All you have to hear is this could be bad news. And I'm what? In a crisis mode. Say in a crisis mode. In a crisis mode. Because we're going to go through this a number of times together. All right, you ready for the first main lesson? Yes. Let's bring up the second key lesson, please, Eric. Let me know when it's up. Repeat after me. The fear of a crisis is the crisis feared. The fear of a crisis is the crisis feared. That means they aren't separate things. You are not separate from the crisis you fear, because without knowing it, some fear in you has actually created the crisis out of what? Out of a time to come when you may or may not be prepared for the pain that is certainly coming down the pike. What is the pike? All right. Nice deep breath. Next level. There is no crisis until a fearful reaction announces it's coming. See it. There is no crisis until a fearful reaction announces it's coming. What does that mean? I don't want to, but I look at Mike. And he's not giggling the way he usually does. And it's a crisis. Why is it a crisis? Because what's wrong with Mike? Is it me? Because everything reverts back to me. So somehow now I'm involved in whatever has Mike's face locked into dog jaw. Private joke. So here's this unbelievable instantaneous reaction. And as it comes, it announces what? Oh God, what do I have to do to fix this? How do I fix him so I'm not negative about the way I feel when I'm with him? What if he's negative with me? Now my mind has started posting the viral stuff on this mind site, all of which is telling me there's a consequence to the fact that Mike's not smiling. Now all that's really happened is that Mike ate 4 hamburgers on the way to the meeting and he doesn't feel good. Not you, right, Mike? Yeah. He's giggling in case you want to know. And following seamlessly that first fearful reaction, what follows any fearful reaction? I'm asking my students here, what follows? Another reaction. Here's this reaction. I'm deriving an identity from it. The identity, for the fact that it's drawn out of some form of fear or of consequence, does what? It has to try to figure out what to do with itself. So the reaction brings a reaction that wants to sort through the next reaction, and you can see that you have a crisis that is formed by a chain reaction of moments, thoughts, and feelings that we're not present to. Our immediate certainty in that moment of that reaction is what? Again, covering this. There's a dark, in the old days when I used to go surfing, you would sit out there. I just sat out there. I didn't surf much. And you would always say, out there, or whatever the expression was, seventh wave. You were always looking at the horizon because waves come in sets, and usually the last wave of a set is the best wave to take, the biggest too, because the energy. So here's this wave, and you go, you go, there it is, and you are waiting for that wave to come and carry you properly to the shore. But when we see a wave coming, what are we thinking? Crisis. Crisis. That wave's bigger than I am. I've never surfed a 2-foot wave. Do you understand? Every wave that you see on the horizon that's part of a crisis is always bigger than your capacity to deal with it, by and large. I know there are people here who think, well, not me, I can handle any crisis. What did we talk about yesterday? We said that controlled stress is not you controlling stress, but something in you being controlled, giving you an identity of someone who is what? In charge of that stress. You can't be in charge of something that's killing you. So here's this wave, and when the wave's coming, especially back in the day, if you're on the water or in life, if that wave's coming, what do I have to do? I have to paddle like hell. Either to get beyond it or to escape it. So it involves an urgency to do what? To somehow or other protect myself from this impending doom. So now we're looking at the nature of a crisis. A crisis is coming, but we're starting to realize there is no crisis without this fearful reaction. So what I'm trying to escape, its impending doom, the consequence, I'm trying to escape my own reaction. That I don't see as my own reaction, because my reaction and my identification with it points to a set of conditions outside of myself. The wave that's coming. When you see a wave that's coming in the ocean of this consciousness, it is not outside of you. It is part of the movement of that consciousness. And in this instance, one that is caught up in a wave of time. But I'll get to that. So then we do what? When we see the impending doom coming. I'm asking you, what do? We begin to ask ourselves questions about what's the nature of it, how do I escape it, what do I do to change? so that I'm no longer threatened by the wave of their discontent with me, by the wave of my feeling inadequate or not relevant, whatever that wave may be, and we're all visited by them in different ways all the time. What happens? We start asking ourselves questions, what do I do? Anytime you ask yourself, what do I do about a crisis? And I'll get to this because I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but it's too much to try to explain to you. The solution to a crisis is in the moment of the crisis, not outside of it. And that includes any action that might be required, but action that comes out of seeing the nature of the crisis does not hold a sense of self that feels in danger. Our crisis is that I'm in danger, that my life, my property, my prospects are somehow threatened. That's the nature of our crisis. A real crisis holds within it the solution. The antidote is in the venom, Rumi would have said. For us, we're never where the real solution to the moment of that crisis is, because we're outside of that crisis trying to figure out what it means and what we have to do to escape what? The crisis we've imagined. Are you following me? Yes. So we never ask this question. What if this pain we experience is not caused by life itself, but is a creation of being identified with a mistaken sense of self that's literally imagined itself into existence that doesn't exist without the future it's imagined? So for me, to explain that sentence, I think the crisis is because of what life is doing. I'm this old, I haven't got this, I might lose that. This is going that way, it's not supposed to. I want to be here, I can't be there. There's always some form of comparison at the root of a crisis. Always some form of comparison at the root of any crisis. But we don't think to ourselves that we are the progenitor of that comparison, because what we see that we're comparing what we want to is a condition we say shouldn't be like that. Can you have a condition that shouldn't be like that without you wanting that condition to be other than that? Do you understand the question? They exist together. So we don't ask, well, what if this is actually like a bad dream? Because if you can follow me at all so far, we're a third of the way through. When I have a crisis, it's real. You don't understand, honestly, the depth of this. When you rush because you're in a crisis. That's the only reason you rush. I rush because if I don't get done, there's a consequence. So the crisis isn't in the moment that I'm rushing. The crisis is the fact that I believe that who I am depends on getting done what I've imagined needs to be done on time in the way it should be done, because then I won't be in a crisis anymore. So I start rushing to get through something that only exists because of a mind that's comparing who I should be to what I may not achieve. Do you see that? So don't think to yourself a crisis like, oh my God, climate crisis or whatever it is, whatever insanity the world creates in order to get people deeply involved in being identified with pain, so then they can sell them drugs and religion and all the rest of it they sell in order to do what? To mitigate a crisis that doesn't exist if it weren't for the consciousness that was creating it. So if we want to be able to cancel a crisis, how many of you like to cancel a crisis before it begins? That must begin with seeing that this sudden sense of self that's in this crisis, it can't exist without feeling as if the conditions it's looking at aren't a threat to how it wants to see itself in that moment. So the crisis is what? Something in this nature compares, now listen, the conditions it sees. What are the conditions it sees other than the conditions it's imagined? Right? My identity is derived from imagined conditions. Please see it. My identity is a derivative of a condition I've imagined. How do I know that? Because when that condition imagined is threatened, my identity is suddenly picked up and thrown into the water, and here comes a wave, the consequence of that condition not rolling out the way it's supposed to roll out. And that happens like that. That's why I call it a chain crisis. It's not a single crisis. It's a consciousness in crisis. This is why we don't change. We never think to ourselves, my consciousness is consistently conflicted by what it compares life should be to what it says it ought to be, so I can be me. And what a price we pay to be me, which is what we're looking at. So, if this imagined sense of self, and we can see it, it has to be attached and identified with conditions that aren't real. I'm going to go slow. This imagined sense of self has to be attached and dependent on conditions that aren't real. You say, no, wait a minute, they're real. So now we have to look, well, what do you call real? Because what I call real is something that isn't corruptible, that doesn't start shaking when the world moves left or right. What I call real is a life that can't have an enemy because it's already participating in a broader life reconciling all of that. So what I call real has nothing whatsoever to do with this condition that because I am attached and identified with it, and now I made it, I've got it, they like me, it's going to go the way I want it to go, everything's going to turn out right. The minute that I know it's going to turn out right, I live in the crisis of fearing that it won't, because that's what life proves all the time. That it's a temporary condition. In fact, it's not even a proper word to use. This mind, the word condition doesn't exist without a conditioned mind. Because for me, this condition is. And I'm saying to you, no condition is that isn't being changed by another condition. Life is totally temporary, which we're going to get to in a passage from the Bible in a moment. So, I'm explaining then what? I've got to protect everything. I do. I just have to do it. I don't want to do it. And that's why I was impatient with you. I'm protecting my boundaries. I'm protecting the sliding glass door that someone couldn't open because I'm identified with properly working home goods, whatever it is. I have so many things to protect. And guess what you're protecting with all the things that you're protecting? The sense of self that's derived from its imagined relationship with those things. That's what's being protected. So is anything actually being protected? Or is everything that I think I have to protect secretly a punishment waiting to land on me because I'm identified with a condition I can't control? You know the answer to it, don't you? This is what, I sit and I say all these words. You have to see this. I've been talking since cows were invented. Forget coming home. That's okay. So here I am, got to protect stuff. What does that mean? Look at me. I'm tense. How many of you are tense? Some of you say, I'm not tense, I'm cool. I'm very laid back. I'm very laid back. And I won't go there. So why am I in tension all the time? You understand? Do any of you just erupt spontaneously? You know, like somebody flame on, like Johnny, whatever is from Fantastic Four, flame on. Why do I flame on? And by the way, does it take much to flame on? No. What's this constant tension? Because unseen is that there is a mortal fear of any unexpected moment that challenges my imagined kingdom and its conditions that validate it. This is all underground. Do you understand that? We're trying to bring at least some awareness into this underground nature so that the light, like Christ said, I am the light of the world, that light can reveal the content of this consciousness, and in the revelation of that consciousness, the chance to do what? To cancel the crisis before it begins, because I can begin to see that this crisis is literally a figment of my imagination. Yeah, the feel is real, but the why is a lie. But nevertheless, doesn't matter how real it feels once I understand the nature of reality. Then there's a chance to understand my relationship to the moment and the so-called chain, the chain of crises that make up my existence. So let's keep going. Recovering. What's our solution when we have a run-in with reality? Do you ever think you have a run-in with reality? No, I have a run-in with idiots. I have a run-in with conditions that don't understand that I've already planned how they're supposed to go. That's what I run into. That's what we call a wall. A wall is a moment that doesn't align with what you say life is supposed to be like. Then you have an enemy called the wall, the person, the predicament, and then you can struggle against that to do what? To try to find a way around a consciousness that when you get around that situation, you'll meet it again. And is that not the truth of our experience? So we only know one way to deal with these run-ins with reality, getting ready for an important transition. And what is that one way that we deal with these run-in with these crises? What is the one thing that everyone does that no one sees every time that we run into that crisis? Can anybody say?
Resistance.
Well, resistance is built in. Actually, the crisis begins with resistance. Anybody? I just ran into a condition that I blame. Apparently, I'm not going to be able to change the condition directly, but in an alternative time and place into which I can retreat, regroup, or escape, I will be able to transcend and change that condition when I get there and when it gets to me. So there's always time, imagined time, that is inseparable from the crisis that creates it. There is always an imagined time inseparable from the unconscious nature that creates it. Can you see it with me a little bit? And where, to the next point, where is this imagined time? Somewhere out there, a better moment's coming. Yes or no?
Yes.
And what is the better moment that's coming that's somewhere out there? What is the better moment that's coming? Is it a real moment?
No.
Or is it another imagined moment that was the source of the last crisis that I went through? So you can start to see that there's this big loop. We always come to this loop. People say, why do you talk in circles? I'm not talking in circles. You're just dizzy. I know you think I'm kidding, but I'm not. That's the problem, is that we live in a circle of self that is self-justifying, that is righteous unto its own ideas of what is good, and that calls anything that interferes or challenges the notion it has of itself someone or something that's creating a crisis, and now I got to go fix it again. You better wake up before you drop this body, because you'll be on your deathbed. I'm going to talk about this not next week. I better put that in right now. I will have no insight timer next Saturday, and next Sunday will be a special presentation of a talk I gave just to some students a couple weeks ago. I'm traveling. So here I am, and I'm always looking out there. Can you see that looking for a time to come can't exist without you looking at a time to come? And the time to come has to be some object, place, or position out there. It's out there. To me, happiness is out there. Fearlessness is out there. Being relevant is out there. Being respected is out there. So my whole life is spent looking out there. And there is no out there, which is one of the key lessons. I probably jumped to it. Right, Eric? I did. I jumped it. There is no out there. What if you knew that? Because here I am. Oh, God. Well, you know what? She said that. Now, immediately, where is my mind? It's out there. It's out there in imagining that she shouldn't have said that. Because she said, can I change what you said to me? Can I change the fact that Mike stopped giggling? Can I? I can't change Squat. But I think I can change the conditions so the next time it comes around, I won't have a crisis because of it. Out there. Say it. There is no out there out there.
There is no out there out there.
And where does thought take you?
Out there.
Out there. Doesn't it? What does every reaction point to? The Babe Ruth of spiritual ignorance. Out there. Something goes down. I don't want it to go down. Oh my God, what's going to happen? My security, my this, my that, my body. What's going to happen? Consequence. Consequence is out there, isn't it? We never think that to ourselves, consequence isn't out there. Consequence isn't out there. Why? Because there's, what a disappointment. Because there's no out there out there. No, apparently you haven't made it out there yet either. All right, so let's keep going. There are two parables in the New Testament, and they seem separate, as most of the way in which we look at these things do, because our mind always picks one object, attends to that object, defines that object by the content of our past, and then decides the meaning of that. But there are every parable, everything that's ever spoken that's truthful is connected. In Eastern traditions, they call it Indira's web. There's this perfect field somewhere out there where everything is connected, and because everything's connected, there's no conflict, and no crisis, no matter what takes place in the field. Because everything that changes in the field changes the whole of the field, so there's no struggling with change, no crisis, right? Two parables. Their meaning is inextricably tied together, but we think they have to be learned separately, and I'm going to help you understand them together. First story. We're all familiar with it, but I'm going to show you something new about it. Prodigal son. Prodigal son. Now, there probably wasn't room, or if it was written in one of the apocryphals, it was probably thrown away. So before the son leaves the house of his father, he had to go to dad and say, you know what? I'm out of here. And if he went to his dad to say, I'm out of here, his dad would have said something like, look, do as you, because he would, as our Heavenly Father says to us, do as you will, my son, my beloved daughter, do as you will. But there's nothing out there for you. Now that didn't get written anywhere, did it? Actually, it did, you'll see. There's nothing out there. There's nothing out there. But go ahead. You have my blessing. Now, why would the father of the prodigal son, representing the divine, and in this instance, even Christ, that which came to seek something, why would that story be told? Unless, hidden in the story, there was a certain secret, which is what? There is
No out there out there.
And isn't that what he found?
Yes.
Man, I thought I was going to be like toasted everywhere I went. Instead, I'm being roasted alive by conditions that are completely I really thought I was going to be something special out here. And then my father would be, come back in this. You don't see it. Then my father would be proud of me. Now, your father tells you, son, that there's no out there. When you've learned anything at all, can you see the root lesson in what you've learned yet? What's the root lesson? I thought there was something out there. I thought when he said he loved me, that'd be the end of my sense of insecurity. Now I'm not so sure. Because what if he does this? I require this. I depend upon it. There's no out there. When I finally become like the world's most respected human being, I'll no longer feel disrespected. Really? Or am I always feeling disrespected because nobody gets it in the moment that they're supposed to respect me simply by the way I look or carry myself or by reputation? So when you disrespect my reputation, guess what happens? What happens when somebody you think disrespects your reputation? What happens to you? Crisis. So he says, go on, but this wasn't written either. When you find out there's nothing out there, come on back. Because I already know what you don't know. So you go do what you're going to do, and when you've finished with it, come on back. That's the beauty of God's love, incidentally. Imagine his father, here comes the prodigal son. Instead of seeing him halfway and meeting him, puts a sign up, no. Door's locked. No soup for you, son. So the prodigal son, like us all, yes or no, he learns the lesson the hard way. Have you learned the lesson the hard way yet? Not necessarily. The root of every unwanted moment, of every, and it's a proper way to say it, a rude awakening. What is a rude awakening? A rude awakening is realizing that I had counted on something that wasn't real, and now I see it's not. But rather than being awakened by this run-in with reality, I simply look back out there. I do the prodigal son, the cycle of the prodigal son. Yes? His father hoped he would see there was nothing out there. Now, in a similar vein, take a nice deep breath. Connected to this, there's no out there. I'll read you the passage. Christ said, "Take no thought for the morrow shall take thought for things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof." So Christ saying, take no thought for the morrow shall take thought for things of itself. Now you have to understand the meaning of the word thought that Christ was using was, don't be anxious about what you see coming. Don't be anxious about what you see. Don't make a crisis out of what you see coming in time. You see a wave. He's saying, don't be anxious. And he's saying, don't be anxious because, and this is what I alluded to earlier, the morrow will take care of things itself. Remember I said, in the moment, if there's a crisis, the intelligence that is part of the revelation of that consciousness captured by it, it knows exactly what to do. It doesn't have to think. See, don't you have to think your way through a crisis? What hell? That's what Christ was saying. Take, therefore, no thought for the crisis of your life. Take no thought. Don't be anxious. Don't try to solve what doesn't exist without you having created it. Aren't you always trying to solve what you think God has thrown in your path or reality is laid down in front of you? Aren't you always trying to solve it? So, sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Now, the word evil, actually, the connotation of it is sufficient unto the day is a certain kind of maliciousness that is built into the day itself. But not because the day is malicious, but because the evil thereof is what we bring into the day with us by always looking outside the day in time for a way to free ourselves from whatever it is that we're suffering from in that moment. Please, yes? Yes. So basically, translation, look, look, you have more than enough to contend with in the present moment than try to figure out what to do with yet another imagined crisis. And if you would do what the moment is actually showing you needs to be done, which isn't an action first, but a level of being that makes clear what the action needs to be, then you wouldn't have another crisis. Oh, it's hard to do this because, like I'm looking outside and there's these date palms and all these exotic, beautiful plants. Do you think here the plant and it goes, feels the sun and goes, what's that? There's a crisis. It's a little hot. I don't know what to do. What's this wind? Are hurricanes coming? Are you kidding me? Whatever it might be, imagine a plant deciding that somehow or other the plan isn't the right plan for it. Is there such thing as a moment that's not the right plan for anything that's part of that planning? No. But for me there is. Because I have my own plan. I am my own plan, and that's the root of the crisis. But we'll see. So, Christ saying, He's asking us to examine the nature of our relationship with what? With these reactions, with these thoughts. We don't examine the nature of thought. We examine the nature of the problem we say thought says is the problem. I'm always examining what? Something out there, aren't I? I never examine what looks out there and what derives an identity from out there, but I sure am spot on with knowing that it's out there and it ought not be out there. So this unconscious level of mind is forever trying to free itself from the fear it has essentially of its own inadequacy. Because why else would I look outside of myself for any solution whatsoever if I actually understand that as I am, and I am made in the image of God, that I am a participant in this life of Christ, of what is divine in nature, however you want to call it, is anything in creation inadequate to the moment of its creation? No. So a crisis is predicated on the idea that somehow or other, whatever is taking place, I'm insufficient to answer it. And therefore I have to do what? I got to answer it. And how do I answer it? In thought. And where does thought tell me to look? Outside of myself. Because thought is outside of myself. So you can begin to see again this loop that's taking place. So, summary. Why in a crisis are we always looking out there? I'm asking you, why in a crisis does all of my attention go out there? We've been talking about it. Why? Because that's where I see the conditions that are responsible for my pain. My thoughts, my attention, everything goes out there, in quotes, because my reaction tells me out there is where it went bad. So in order for it to not be bad, I have to make it good, in quotes again. Was it ever good? Or was I imagining a goodness because of being attached and identified to conditions my mind had created? And then by the grace of God, this is what we don't get. By the grace of God, yesterday I said it, stress is the revelation of an unconscious nature. We look at stress as the revelation that something went wrong, instead of realizing if I wasn't feeling this crisis, I would never know that I'm a living crisis. So crisis, in fact, that's right out of, I guess, the Chinese Oriental teaching. The other definition of crisis is opportunity. Well, what opportunity? To see the consciousness responsible for the crisis. And if I see the consciousness responsible for the crisis, what do I do about the crisis if I see it? Nothing. I lose my life to find it. Because I can see it. I've been in one lifelong crisis defined by 10,000 different changing conditions. Fear always feels like it's different because it's pointing to something other than what it pointed to last time. But you get old enough, you start seeing fear is always pointing at something very familiar. It's got about 8 favorite fearful things. Relationships, money, health, food, whatever it might be. The way you treat me, it's got favorite things. And the minute that anything goes wrong in any one of those favorite things, up comes the crisis. So the real crisis, if you will, is inseparable from the fearful reaction that creates it. The real crisis inseparable from the fearful reaction that creates it. But further than that, because we're getting into the end of the talk now, the nitty-gritty, if you will. What is the real crisis, if you followed me at all, behind everything that I've laid out? What is the real crisis? Not the crisis that my mind points to as being responsible for my suffering. What is the real crisis at every point if, in fact, I attend enough to realize that I'm being pointed outside of myself. What is the real crisis?
That I won't be able to save myself.
In part, but it's deeper. We've yet to face a certain, and I would say inescapable, undeniable fact. You know what that undeniable fact is behind the continuation of this crisis, this chain of crises? Fear can't be escaped in a time to come. Fear can't be escaped in a time to come. That's what's out there, isn't it? A time to come? A new condition that all create? Fear cannot be escaped in a time to come. Anxiety cannot be transcended in a time to come. Hatred cannot be repaired in a time to come. Now you either see that or you don't. Every talk always comes down to whatever level of understanding you have as you're listening. But if you're watching yourself, just like that reaction. Crisis. But when the reaction comes, it doesn't go crisis. There's just the reaction. And the mind that has that reaction is fearful of a condition that challenges what it's conditioned to believe should be so. And in that moment, crisis is born. The moment itself is never a crisis. There's no such thing as a crisis moment. I know how deep this runs. I'm going to hear from people, yeah, there's the crisis moment. I heard someone's going to die. Are they dead? Well, how about I was told I'm going to die. Are you dead? What about what's going to happen tomorrow? That's not a crisis. What about the climate? What about this? What about that? Crisis, crisis, crisis. No, the crisis is that something in you isn't present enough to realize you're always looking at something outside of you to explain the pain inside of you. And until you get that fact that something forever, and it does, it is a fact. You know, Christ said, the legion, we are seized. That's an accurate word. We are seized by a reaction. But the reaction itself is powerless. It's part of a movement, something that is inescapable in the passage of creative time. It's there. But the expression of self that comes out of that reaction, that's another whole story. Every time something isn't going the way it's supposed to go, it's because it isn't unfolding in the time I imagined it was supposed to unfold. This isn't supposed to happen. How can I think to myself, this shouldn't be that way, unless there is a time I've imagined or a time I'm thinking is coming that is already in place, and this just isn't lining up. So imagine this. God's time is not aligned with the time that I've made in my kingdom in which I can be saved or otherwise will save myself where? Out there. Fear can't be escaped in a time to come. Now, who can tell me why fear can't be escaped in a time to come? You have enough energy to finish this up? Why can't, do you agree with me? Fear can't be escaped in a time to come? Now let's hold slow. I want you to come wide awake and remember yourself for a moment. Fear can't be escaped in a time to come. Oh, holy mother of pearl. What am I supposed to do when the time of fear comes? Well, because that's the question, isn't it? Here comes the time of fear. Here comes tomorrow. Failing to see that what? The time of fear is produced by the illusion of a tomorrow, a world out there in which I will finally be content and confident. And all of that suddenly is right in front of me. So I'm asking you, why is it that fear can't be escaped in a time to come? Because the fear of any time to come, regardless what the condition is the crisis. Do you think to yourself you live in a perpetual fear of a time to come? Honestly, does that occur to you? No, you say because I'm a positive person. No, you're a deluded person. The proof that it's a delusion is that every time something comes in time, something unfolds, necessarily there is a negative reaction to it because it's not aligning with my time. This isn't your time. It's God's time. And the difficulty for us is to see that the pursuit of a freedom doesn't exist without what? Why have I imagined out there, and it is out there, isn't it? Why have I imagined out there who I will be, what I will have, what I will get, what I need. Why have I imagined that to begin with? When I grew up, I was told that's how you define yourself, son. I mean, if you don't know that, if you don't know who you're going to be, you're lost. I don't know if you went through that, because I didn't want to be anything when I was a kid. I really didn't. And I felt guilty. Everybody knows who they want to be. I don't have a clue. It used to tear me up. I'm not kidding either. All right, what do you want me to be? And then you watch TV in those days. Now you just flip through endless screens of stupidity looking for an image that momentarily resonates with whatever you think your reality should be. That's it. I'm going to be an influencer. And then I'll be viral. No, I'll go viral. You already are viral. By the way, how do viruses finally wake up in the body? When the conditions required and the immunity system breaks down sufficiently, suddenly that which was always there makes itself known, doesn't it? Exact same parallel when it comes to this life. Suddenly, all the things that were laying dormant in this consciousness are stimulated into some form of activity, and the next thing I know, I'm terrified because of a crisis that doesn't exist without something out there in thought in my past, because I want to get to this last idea. Pursuit of freedom doesn't exist without what? Why do I, in quotes, pursue freedom through what I pursue it through? You have to get outside of yourself to answer this question. I pursue the freedom that I do because something in my past conditioned me to do that. It said, here's what freedom is. Freedom will be not being like your father because he was dysfunctional. Freedom would be more like being your uncle who was a great this or a great that. Freedom will be when I acquire all the things that apparently my mom and dad pretended they have, but they apparently didn't have it at all. But I'm going to have the stuff they didn't have. And then mom and dad say, yeah, that's what freedom is. I want you to have more than I had. And I go, that's what I want. More than you had. And what did they have? Crisis. What do you think breaks the body down? What do you think breaks the body down? Serving one crisis after another. And mostly we've been trained mostly not to talk about crises. But those we really trust will tell about our crises. And then they'll go, oh my God. And then they'll validate the fact that, yes, this is a real crisis. And then they'll tell you what to do when they've never solved a crisis in their life. So, here's this imagined future. Does the imagined future exist without the past that wasn't satisfied with itself? So they're really one thing, aren't they? So if the future I imagine where I will be free of the crisis is really a creation of a conditioned nature that looked for a way to escape its own captivity, then I can begin to see that past and future aren't separate things at all. They are a unit of an unconscious nature that divides my life up into who I have been and what I must be or become in order to no longer have a crisis. Everybody still following me? Just a little while longer to go. So, back to the beginning. There is no out there, out there. There is no out there, out there. What does that mean? This is a little insight into the idea of temptation. What is temptation? Does it exist without something out there? You know, if I eat this, drink this, get that, buy that, move, if I just do that, the crisis is over. But the crisis exists because something inside of you is telling you that where you are isn't enough. You need to be someplace else, you need to own something else, you need to fix something else. So identification with the promise of a time to come is synonymous with the word crisis. Identification synonymous with the word crisis. To see there is no crisis coming, because I have to try to include everybody. For some of us, we're not, it's not that bad. I've got some do-re-mi and people that more or less approve of me. But oh, my past, because it pops up, that past pops up, and when that past pops up, boy, I'm in pain. So my crisis isn't so much with what I'd say the present moment. I get by okay. God, one day, God willing, you will not want to get by okay. But the past, it's a problem. So my crisis is in the past. How can there be a crisis in the past? unless there's something carrying it forward through time and tormenting you because whatever it was you said and did, something now through comparison is telling you you're better than that and that shouldn't have happened. So now the crisis, again, whether it's for the future or the past, is born out of comparison. Do you see it? And that comparison belongs to an unconscious mind whose derivative sense of self can't exist without a crisis, without comparison. So the question is, what do I do? Because it always comes to that. Here I am, and this is a pivotal point. Here comes a crisis. So is a crisis coming? Is a crisis coming? It's not coming, is it? But suddenly I'm in the presence of a crisis. Very important shift. Crisis isn't coming. I know some of you think, yeah, it's coming. No, I'm in the presence of a crisis. Oh my God. There's no crisis in the past, and there's no crisis in the future. The crisis is in the present. And I put in parentheses, the crisis is present. The crisis is in the presence. Whose presence creates a crisis? Do you understand that question? Whose presence creates a crisis? Does Christ's presence create a crisis? Does love create a crisis? No, I'm in the presence of a crisis. I say, no, I'm in the presence of a problem. I'm in the presence of something coming I don't want. I'm saying, no, you're not. There is no crisis in the presence. But the presence I'm in is a crisis. And if I can just remember something like that, at least I have an opportunity to realize, okay, I'm feeling stress, anxiety. I'm starting to feel a crisis coming on, or this is another crisis. And then the strange thing, how many of you revisit crises? So weird. This strange world. Hey, have you ever heard this expression, never forget? Yeah. Well, has anybody remembered yet? Or is what I remember in that moment my hostility and negativity towards people who, in their ignorance, produced this crisis, but I'm not part of the crisis? You are in the presence of crisis all the time because that unconscious nature lives to create a division between itself and the divine, between what should be and what is. You start to understand that. You realize that and this is deep. I have to close with it though. The presence that I'm in that creates crisis is itself a captive of the time it creates. It creates a time where it'll be free of the crisis, and the time it creates is the crisis because it keeps us from facing the fact that we are living from and in a fallen nature, an unconscious nature. And all you have to do is see that with greater clarity, because every time you even catch a hint of that, I want relief. Well, where's relief? Well, it's not with me. Relief is in this icon. Relief is in this condition that if I just massage everything properly enough, I'll have it. No, there's no relief in a time to come. This is what we live for. But now what we want to live for is not the presence of this crisis, but rather a new kind of presence that can see the crisis for what it is. And you see that, and then I can't say any more than that. You can't answer this understanding anything other than through practice. You work at this, you'll see. You see, you'll want to work more at it. And then you'll really understand, if I've been clear at all, there really is a single action that cancels a crisis before it begins, because you're not involved in the creation or continuation of that crisis presence, that unconscious presence. Yeah? Let's take a break. We'll come back and have our dialogue.
Welcome back, everyone. And now it is time for our Q&A time with Guy. So if you are on GoToWebinar, you can raise your hand. And if you're on YouTube or Facebook, you can always write a question in the comment area, the chat area in your platform. And we will read that to Guy and he will engage with whatever questions we have going on. We have a couple hands in the queue right now, so we'll get going with those. But I did want to remind everyone, Guy mentioned that he will not be speaking live next Sunday, but we do have a talk that he did for a small group of students. And the title of that talk that will play next Sunday is Go Beyond the Pain of Becoming and Leave Fear Behind You. And so we obviously would love for you to see that, and we'll be discussing that in a Friday night study group. Our Friday night study group this week will discuss today's talk. So that is at 6 o'clock Pacific time this coming Friday, and it's a group of students that get together and we kind of deep dive into how we've used the talk today in our lives this week. So we invite you to join us for that. It's a really great time and we learn a lot from each other. And then of course, Guy will be Classic Talks our Wednesday at 6 Pacific time. So that's what we have going this week. No insight timer, but next Sunday he will be on live. All righty, so let's get started. We have Dwight, and then we'll go to Nikki, and then we have a few written questions. Let's see here. Dwight, I'm going to unmute you.
Hey, Guy.
Hi, Dwight.
I just want to say briefly, last week's talk, in my opinion, is the best talk that you've had in years.
Well, don't
I
be
mean,
brief. Don't be brief about it. Go on, man.
No, it was incredible. I've taken all the notes I look at every morning from that talk. I listen to it again and again. It really resonated with me. I'll tell you that more than you know.
I'm glad. B, I'll say something encouraging. Suddenly I'm hearing something and it's like, I don't know if you ever had the experience, your body has a hunger for a certain kind of fruit or vegetable or something, and you take it in and suddenly everything in you sings. Because there was a place prepared for it. You didn't know the need necessarily, but when the need was answered, there is a certain kind of fulfillment that follows that's inexplicable. And so it is with a man or a woman who seeks what is true as they work and bring about the kind of changes that we cannot of ourselves elicit, but that we allow to be revealed as necessary. That nature grows increasingly like a kind of a spiritual sponge. It's able to see and absorb so much more than it could before, because it is in fact it has been prepared for that. So this is a good sign when something strikes you like that. I can't say whether or not it was something, I know it was important material, but I feel that way about everything that I'm presenting. So I'm glad for you, Dwight. Stay close. Don't lose the feeling. Stay with it. On we go.
Okay, we're going to go to Nikki. Nikki, I'm going to unmute you and then you'll unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Hi.
Hello? Oh, hi, Guy. I think this is the first time I've spoken to you in person.
Hi.
But I listen to you all the time. And follow up to Dwight, I would say every single time you speak, something drops. And it feels like each time you speak, it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. So I just want to thank you for all the material you share. But my question is, I identify as someone who can deal with crisis. I just saw that in your sharing today. And I realize that's got to be my lower self or ego. So I was wondering, could you please speak a bit more about crisis? The first sign of a crisis is resistance, if I'm resisting, because I feel like I can cut that crap out of, I deal with a crisis. I don't even have to call it a crisis. I could just say what's in front of me is for my expansion. I don't need to even look at it in any way, shape, or form as something I've got to fight. So can you speak a bit more about that? Because that's what really dropped for me when you said crisis and resistance, that's a sign.
Yes.
I may not be saying it right, though.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, Nikki, nice to speak with you. I hope I get to speak with you again. B, resistance isn't the first sign of a crisis. Resistance is a natural relationship that takes place, if you will, between active and passive forces, that the will of heaven should be done as the will of earth, means that there is always something that is timeless, always something that is pure, and it never stops acting on what is created to receive those energies. So in nature, the sun shines on the lily. The lily doesn't have to struggle to be beautiful because the beauty is born of the relationship between the light and that which is intended to receive it in the lily. But it doesn't mean that when the light strikes the lily isn't resisting the light. The lily naturally resists light. That's why you see the colors and the shape and the form of the lily, because the matter that is absorbing the energy is using it for one purpose, and the matter that can't absorb that light is using it for another purpose, which is to reveal the beauty of God's creation, if you can understand that. So that means that resistance is not the cause of this crisis, but identification with the resistance is the crisis. And that's all you have to know. Don't think of yourself, Nikki, you'll do yourself a favor and save a lot of time and trouble. Don't think of yourself as someone who's equipped to deal with crises. I know people, I've met, especially recently, a lot of nurses. You know, you go into these places, these nurses are unbelievable. I'm tempted to say a joke. No, I won't do it. In an emergency clinic, they're taught to deal with crisis through a certain kind of impersonal relationship they have with it. We don't want an impersonal relationship with the moment. What we want is to be personally present enough to see whatever is moving through us. Why is they serve me a beautiful pizza, and what moves through me isn't a crisis in that moment, unless somebody takes more than 2 pieces from the pie. I mean, then there's a crisis because I'm already identified with the pleasure of having that food for myself. That's a simple example, but it takes place, doesn't it? How many of you like people reaching over and taking food off your plate? That's a crisis, isn't it? So on one side, the crisis isn't the experience of the moment. The crisis is what makes the experience personal. Because anywhere a crisis is made personal, any personality aspect that wants to shun or otherwise shine in the moment, all of that is a crisis waiting to happen. And the last thing I'll say is this, Nikki, just watch. I was thinking just before we came back for this Q&A session, I don't know why in the name of God it takes so long for a person to understand all they do is muck up their own life. You can have I tell you what, I will say this. I live on a bay. And on the bay there are all these beautiful seabirds. There's cranes and really these other guys with really long noses and what do they call them? Egrets. Anyway, feeders. And it's, if you want to know where yoga, a lot of it came from, they watch these beautiful animals. And if you could move like that, but what that animal is in the moment is in a complete relationship with the field of the moment. So that as a participant in the entire field, not separate from the field, but like a string as part of the instrument of nature, any movement that takes place in that field, that creature sees, hears, or feels. So it's like in this constant really the definition of meditation is that which is not separate from the field it's in. So they're in a perfect meditative state. Of course, there's no self-awareness. They're not thinking to themselves, look at me. I hope Guy sees this, because look at this move. You know, they're not going through that like we do. They're just there. When you can learn just to be in that field, you won't find a crisis in it that isn't part of the completion of that field and that you are completed through instead of fearing. There, I said it. I wanted to say that. On we go.
Okay, I'm going to read a question from Frida. Frida asks, hello, Guy. That is also the case when you're trying to figure out how something works within you. You've seen something in yourself, and then you start to think about how it all works. But a little later you think, no, it's different after all. I'll wait a little longer and it will come to me. And also, is that the case when you're looking outside yourself?
Yeah. I've said this before, Frida. I hope you can remember it if you were there for one of the talks. I said that our present nature is an object-oriented nature. Our present nature attends to the objects that appear in it. Now, no object can appear in this nature as long as that object is, in the moment of its appearance, defined that doesn't confine us to the meaning lent to that object. So my mind poses an object. It says, oh, look, this is what I finally figured it out. And when you say to yourself, I finally figured it out, you are looking outside of yourself, because you're looking at the thought that you figured out, in quotes, that you've supplied the meaning to, and now my identity is a derivative of thought. And if any part of me is a derivative of thought, I'm out there. And something will come along and either challenge that thought, or it'll show me, you know what, that was an incomplete thought, but now I have a complete thought. Now I see. Anytime you hear yourself say, now I see, you are out there. When you see, there's no one saying, I see. In true experience, there's no experiencer of the moment. Just as with the cranes, there's no creature there outside of nature. There's just one of its elements participating in its circulation. On we go. Ouch.
Okay, we're going to go to Fiona.
Ah, Fiona.
Hi, Fiona.
Thanks, Leah. Hello, Guy.
Ah, Fiona. Where have you been?
Oh, well, just, always listen to the talks. It's been 15 years now, regular listening. So, yeah, I'm pretty consistent with all of that.
Hi.
The two things you said today really about it's not your time, it's God's time, is just fantastic for remembering when we're all in time in our bodies, and like that egret, that's pure perfection in nature following those laws, and yet we are in time, but yet there's two ways of being in that time body.
Yes.
Can either be, so you have those things that come up, that is the huge reaction, and it can echo through decades or even through centuries of something that really very powerful, and it's so, it's really, the mind does really want to take over. But it's very much remembering the things like it being in the body. You can either realize that it's not your person that's coming out from this body. It's like the body came out of an earlier timelessness. So it's the two, just remembering you're in the body, but there's a much bigger picture to not thinking you have come out of this body when it was born in time.
Yes.
There's a timelessness. It's difficult to portray.
It's good, Fiona, and it's wonderful, believe me when I tell you, to contemplate such things. Because eventually the contemplation will grant you a certain realization that what you're seeking to finally actualize, to finally realize as yourself, thought isn't going to be able to do it. And that the more you realize the futility of taking thought, the more you will be free from looking to thought to free you at all. The idea, Christ said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, was basically saying, render unto time what is in time. And we must learn to walk that, because in fact, we are in time, but not of time. And we are both. But there must be a priority. That's why I said it's God's time. I'm going to give an entire talk on this beautiful notion and give the insights that validate it. That, as Christ said, it is not I who doeth the works, it is my Father. When you start to understand the whole works is being done, and you are not the doer of the works, you are the one who is supposed to be there as a bridge between the worlds working together, you can start to relax. The whole idea of a crisis takes on a completely different meaning to you, because you understand you can cooperate with another nature that is at once in time, dealing with mom and dad and brothers and sisters and bad health and bad teeth and bad food and the Daytona 500 with all of its noise, whatever it may be, all that's going on, but you are free because you understand that's passing and you are the field through which it is passing. And then all of the work is done accordingly. So as always, Fiona, glad to hear from you. Keep working.
Absolutely, will do. Thank you. It's the exchange just creates a vaporization of this sense of self more. So it's fantastic. Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, I understand that Jill is a student there with you, Guy, that would like to speak. And then if there's anyone here in Oregon that would like to come up to the mic, now would be a good time to do that as well.
Not Jill.
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Yes. So I have a memory. A memory comes to me, and then there's a crisis because I feel this sadness, and I hear something say grief. So that's the crisis that you're talking about as other things keep following that memory.
That is the presence of crisis. A mind divided up into something that first brings up an experience that as it brings it up, it doesn't want it. That's what's going on. It says, here, look at this again and again and again and again. It brings it up. It's a regurgitation. You don't see these painful memories as the regurgitation of an unconscious nature that never assimilated the first impression. It never used it. So now that consciousness is using those old impressions to derive what? A very personal sense of self who went through this and this, that, and the other. Is that the self? Is that who you are? Are you someone who brings something up that's painful so that you can have that pain again as the proof of the you who went through that? You start seeing, you know what? Yeah, that happened. I was asleep. I was stupid. I made a mistake. I did something horrible. But anything in you that wants to relive a horrible moment is the horror itself. You just need to remember that and learn bit by bit instead of identifying with it and, starting to move down the stream, say, no, you know what? I'm not getting in those waters. I'm going to stand on the shore of this impersonal witness and I'm going to watch everything float by. And if you stay there long enough, it will float by. And then you start to realize, you know what? If it floated by a little bit, maybe it can float by a lot more. And then you are in time, but not of it. In time means that personality, that nature that made those mistakes, painful as they were, hurt somebody else, got hurt, whatever it was, it can't wait to bring you into that muck. Write it down. Don't go in the muck.
And if the memories are happy, it's the same.
It's the same. Look, I just don't know. I guess I'll just keep doing it. There are no rules. This nature wants rules so it can have the crisis of failing them. If you want to use a word, the rule is be aware of the nature suffering from its rules. I should do this, that's a rule. I shouldn't be like that, that's a rule. This shouldn't have happened, that's a rule. Maybe this will happen if the ruling goes well. So the whole thing is that I am in fact think I'm ruling when I go out there, when in truth I am being ruled by an unconscious nature that has to create time and space and places where one day it won't suffer itself. It's never going to happen. The more you see that, the more you will withdraw from those moments. Okay?
Okay.
Give us a full report.
Okay.
Okay. Come on, Eric.
Oh, okay. And then we have Karen here after
Okay.
Eric.
Do you remember that there used to be a time before smartphones when we had to memorize phone numbers? This just something I noticed the other day was I was trying to memorize something, and which the mind can ostensibly naturally do, and I noticed something come in right away and freak out over not being able to memorize it. Like it was sabotaging my own
Ability to
memorize.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
It had this fear, like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to memorize this. You know, a mini crisis. It's not like that was going to ruin my day, but it was like a little tiny mini crisis happening.
100%. And that's a perfect example of what we're talking about. My mind first thinks to it, there's a consequence. First, I have to remember this. So suddenly there's a consequence if I don't remember it. And as the consequence, as the crisis grows, then something says, oh my God, what's going to happen now that you can't remember anything? You're getting old. It's all over for Eric. Most human beings live in a perpetual crisis of worrying that they're going to forget somebody's birthday. And you get old enough, you can't remember your own birthday. Right? Yeah, that's a crisis too. Yeah, good. That's what we ought. You know what? It seems like it's nothing, but it's something very important. Because instead of being identified first with the fear and then identified with the consequence, suddenly I see they're tied together. And now I have an insight into the workings of this machinery. It's everything. Over to you, Leah. You don't look like Leah.
Hi, Guy.
Hi,
This is a
Karen.
great talk. And I am in a big crisis right now, so this is great. I woke up about 2 weeks ago and I couldn't get out of bed. I was in so much pain in my hips and back, and every morning when I wake up, I can't walk. My whole life just ended, it seems like.
I get it.
Movement is my life, and I'm just freaking out. You know, I'm going into the future, and oh my God, and how am I going to make money? And how do we stay? How do I stay in the moment when there's such a physical thing?
Well, fortunately, relative to your question, I am not a stranger to this kind of pain. So you said that movement is my life. And therein lies the problem.
Uh-huh.
Movement is not your life. Your life is what everything is moving through. And when all of that changes, as it has to, what do you think growing older is about? I've always said from the time I was knee-high to a grasshopper, which will give you an idea of how long ago it was. This life is a journey in letting go. But you won't let go of something that you believe still serves you. So in this instance, you believe your pain and resistance to your present condition serves you. Because it validates Karen, who's always been a master mover, who's always made whatever she makes out of herself and identifies with being someone like that. Well, in case that you haven't noticed, as you get older, there's not a lot left to identify with. There's just not. So is the pain in the fact that the things that I used to think I was good at, polished with, is the pain in that fact, or is the pain in the fact that something in me is clinging tenaciously to an identity that no longer holds? The identity, see, nothing wrong with, in quotes, an identity. You are this person who does that. The problem isn't in what this person is and does. The problem is in me who believes that's what I am. And the minute I can't be that anymore, suddenly I am worthless. I'm useless. It's always going to be this way. Where is this going to lead? The consequences are dire. Just kill me.
Yeah.
That was a saying of mine a long time ago when I was going through a lot of pain. I'd say it humorously. They shoot horses, don't they? I mean, it seems like a natural thing to do. Why should I go through this? Go through what? And it's simple to say sitting here, and you're listening, you can hear me, but you're going to get out of bed tomorrow like I get out of bed. And it's something that go, I don't think so. I don't think so. What do I do? And then there's a natural. Here's what I can do that is natural to the condition. I can change my diet if I need to. I can do what is required so that even though it's painful, I use what I can use so it doesn't go further away. Then I'm using the moment as it is given to me. So the crisis is no longer determining my conditions. I'm using the conditions I'm in to realize there's no crisis if I'm present to what it's asking me to do and be and see in that moment. Because you're going to have to lay the body down, Karen. So lay it down now. Do you understand? What else was Christ talking about? Lay your body down. The thought about tomorrow where I'm not going to be able to do something is only as painful as my insistence that I'm someone who should be able to do that. And my whole identity is a derivative of that. People look at me like I'm supposed to be something. I can't let them down. It's not them you're letting down. It's that you're trying to uphold an image that you didn't create to begin with, but that you became a captive of without knowing it took place. Now you can start to see that and work diligently to use the crisis of the moment to free yourself from the presence of that crisis and enter into the presence of what the moment is showing you so you can use that moment intelligently.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
It's not going to make the suffering going away. That's what you want. It's not going to make it go away. Human beings are deluded that they can escape suffering when everything they do to escape suffering out there is the source of the suffering they're going through.
Thank you.
Okay. Be well. My thoughts are with you. Yeah. Leah, you look so different.
Hi,
wow,
Guy.
talk about a transformative talk.
I let my hair go natural.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait a minute. That's not Leah. Hi, Deborah.
Hi, Guy. I was sitting out there and I was so moved by your talk. I think it was just beautiful. And I don't really have much to add, but I just wanted to say that, well, for one thing, we know, anybody who knows me, Deborah is a walking crisis. There's always something that's a crisis for me. As a matter of fact, this morning, I was upset because the color of my shirt doesn't match my pants. And I didn't realize, but it was I know.
Oh, my God.
Obviously, that's a small thing, but it's everything. And let me just say one more thing, and then.
Well, let me say this first because it will help augment what I know you're about to say. It'll help you see something.
Okay.
You cannot separate the extent of drama in a person's life from the extent of the crises they experience. So the more dramatic I am, do you know anybody that's dramatic, Deborah?
The more a little bit.
Yeah. The drama is the enactment of the crises, whether it's outward or inward. So I have to catch myself on stage. You can
All the time.
Well, you're alone. You're alone and you're on stage. You're talking to yourself. You're the audience. You're the principal actor. You're the script that needs to be changed as you're speaking it. The whole thing's just going on. So I want you to see that drama queen relative to the crisis that drama queen keeps in place so that she can be someone who is involved in a very deep, important drama. Now, please go on.
Well, first of all, there's something that keeps us in our chair because we think we don't have anything important to say. And the correction and the thing that you just pointed out to me is invaluable, really. It's invaluable because a part of me doesn't ever look deeper at that. And then the other thing I wanted to add was to be reminded that there is no time coming, that the work is now. It's now to see the nature that's involved in all the drama. It's now. There's nothing coming. If we really understood that there was nothing coming, I know I'm acting dramatic again.
That's okay. Some drama is okay. Look,
everything would change.
Saint Paul alluded to this, Deborah. He didn't say it, but I'm saying it. Is that free will isn't that you can choose what you want. Free will is realizing that you're going to serve something and that's your choice. So free will means I can begin to realize that my will has belonged to this crisis presence, to this nature of crisis, to this drama. And if I align and give myself over to that dramatic nature, to that crisis nature, to the presence of crisis, then in that moment, I need to see, I am serving this. We don't think we're serving this crisis nature, this legion. We don't think we're serving it when it is telling us what to do, how to liberate ourselves from it. I don't think I'm serving it, but I am serving it because my mind is the continuation, the extension of that crisis. That's all we want to see. We don't need big things. We just want little insights, right?
That's right. All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Guy.
Nice to see you.
Right.
Nice to see you, Deborah.
Okay.
Bye. I'm told, by the way, that shortly we're going to be moving to another platform where the people who come on to speak from the web or even here, everybody will be able to see. So we'll have a much more fluid dialogue. I'm looking forward to that. You're back on, Leah.
Okay. I have a question. It's 11:12. I have a question, and it's a two-part question from Marvis. I believe that's how the name is pronounced.
Marius. Marius.
Marius.
Yeah. No, think of Marius.
Okay, Marius.
No, I won't.
Oh boy. Okay. First part of the question. My partner's father has unexpectedly died. Is grieving, crying, reminiscing, and trying to come to terms with it part of false self? Because we go into thoughts about how we miss them. This also leads to other negative thoughts and feelings of guilt, what we shouldn't have done, etc. It seems correct actions are to notice thoughts when they come trying to direct to think or feel a certain way. Can you comment?
Sorry, I'm being taken somewhere deep. I intend to answer your question at a somewhat practical level, but I want to show you something underneath it. First, you have a partner, you love your partner, you don't want your partner to suffer. But if you understand anything about the true nature of your wish to know God's life, you can begin to realize that you're not there to stop that person from suffering. That's pure egotism. You're there understanding, because you have seen it in your own life, that when suffering over the loss of something becomes a crisis, then you are no longer suffering the actual loss of something or someone. Now you are suffering the loss of a sense of self that was identified and connected to it. And that runs so deep, I can't even begin to tell you how thoroughly the fear of death runs through human beings. There's no way to express it. We can only point to it. That in the end, every crisis is the fear of death. Because what is a crisis other than the end of something through which I knew myself and I was identified with? So until we understand and can meet this idea of death properly, realizing it's not an idea, but it's actually a beautiful part of life, we will always find ourselves suffering or watch others suffer what we call death. So that's the deeper part. Now the simpler part, if you will. Our nature wants to be a crisis extending nature, because there's a very divinative sense of self that's derived out of it. This is what actually Jill was talking about when she was up here. She may not know it, but something in me wants to relive something. So it brings up something, in this instance, it doesn't want to relive, still the same resistance. Now the mind brings up what it wants to live, but it doesn't, so now it resists that fact. So it's the same consciousness, just acting out the opposites, if you can see it. Now I'll address grief. Again, in the end, there's only one grief. There is a grief that is born out of resistance to death, because something in me wants to continue to realize the relationship that can no longer be sustained by the physical presence of whatever it did that gave me that feeling of myself. So there's the grief that comes that is inescapable, natural, and necessary for a human being, which is, I love something, I love someone. Even to what, I don't know who was asking me this question, even I love doing so. Oh, it was Karen. I love doing something. But I can't do it anymore. So there is a kind of grief created by the realization that that which was can no longer be. But if I'm present enough, I understand that that which was has already had its place taken by that which is. But I'm not there for that which is, because I'm stuck back with that which was and how it can't be that way anymore. Grief is not intended to go on and on and on. But don't you dare say that to someone who's grieving. It's not your business. Help your partner. Don't try to teach them. You try to teach them, you won't help them. But you must understand yourself where it is that that person may be in a drama. And then, regardless the cost of yourself, to not participate in that drama. You will have to meet this moment. Most of you don't know what it's like, where you simply say, I'm not going to participate in this. You want to talk about it? Talk about it. I understand it. Go on and do it. But I won't. Because then they'll say, you don't love me. You're abandoning me. You